I am Tochukwu Emeh, a Nigerian and an art fellow in the technical theater section of Department of Theater and Media Arts, Federal University Oyekiti, Ekiti State, where I work and teach scenic arts and design. The researcher, who is also an art historian, is interested in modern African arts. The researcher, however, joined active civil service in 2014 with the Department of Theatre and Media Arts, Federal University Oyekiti, where he observed the lack of Afrocentric depictions and cultural art forms on the flats of the university theatre complex during Afrocentric theatre production. This implies that no cultural group, being stage or cultural nation or cultural entity whose play is being staged in the theater complex has its cultural symbol or cultural identity represented on the flats. This lacuna could be as a result of time constraints, or they could be caused by the ephemeral nature of the theater, or by inappropriate funding or lack of material, painting materials and scenic design materials, or it can equally be caused by sheer negligence of major stakeholders. For this reason, the researcher embarked on an auspicious exploration to experiment on scenic morgue, indigenous scenic morgue, which houses several or numerous Afrocentric pictorial documents captured by still photographs or retrieved from online sources or diverse social media networks. During the development of this scenic morgue, cultural revivalism and natural synthesis were the mainstream art principles or art forms or art movements that were considered when developing this indigenous scenic morgue. As expected, the application of art historical methods, artistic principles, and standard art theories were involved or engaged during the diverse ways or during the diverse studies and experiments on this particular subject. The researcher engages the Pan-Africanism movement, the negritude philosophy, the Igbo body arts movement called holism, Onaism by the western part of the country, Eye, and Zarianist movements. Also, modernist and postmodernist African arts theories were also studied. The Panofsky's iconography or iconology, semiotics, and the Freudian psychoanalytic study of the subconscious African or subconscious study of the artistic mind was also considered during this experiment. Again, successfully, many new futuristic art forms, art identities, African cultural idioms, metaphors, motifs emerged during this auspicious experiment. Students learned new ways of engaging themselves with multicultural symbols, African symbols, and how to depict them accordingly, complementing them and approximating them according to the Afrocentric theater productions that is to be staged on the theater. Also, these were obvious on various command performances, commissioned works, theater for the development, community services, and other theatrical works staged within and outside the university, where scenic designs and scenic artistry were involved. Many artistic or creative ways of making art also emerged, though rigorous, but very, 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 very vital in the understanding and in being and in getting acquainted with the indigenous cultures. Also, the new art forms, futuristic, Afrocentric art metaphors, and creative idioms emerged during various artistic or new ways of art making processes, which we are seeing during the development of indigenous scenic morgue using cultural revivalism and natural synthesis. Students learned how to engage themselves with the development of this Afrocentric scenic morgue by the aggregation and collection of encyclopedic indigenous photographs or Afrocentric images from their immediate environment or from any sub-Saharan culture available to them. Some are gotten from filial duty, which is the African way of apprenticeship passed from parents to offspring. Some of these Afrocentric pictures are basically gotten by mere observation, by seeing, by recognizing, and by understanding, according to John Bever. Cultural revivalism is an art movement that started in Nigeria during the early 20th century by the arts administrator from Sussex, Kenneth Murray, who was also an archaeologist. He started teaching art in secondary schools, teaching students on how to learn and how to have passion on their indigenous art cultures. And the pioneer artists of Nigeria, such as Ben Enwong, Dr. Lawal, Tochukwu, among others, were very, very instrumental in Nigeria due to the knowledge acquainted or learnt from cultural revivalism being taught by the colonial administrator Kenneth Murray. Before then, Aina Onobalu, a pioneer African artist, has already started his photographic copying of Nigerian airlights into his drawing books as a movement known as traditional realism. This also was the harbinger, or would be the harbinger, of natural synthesis, an art movement that was bettered in Zaria Art School. where some art students who were instrumental in the development of this natural synthesis at the Zaria School refused to or insisted in indulging in artistic symbols of the indigenous practices or traditional art forms than adopting hook, line, and sinker the Western arts pedagogy. By so doing, they developed a hybridized form of artistic symbols used in various artistic representation instead of adopting the European pedagogy imposed on them. Cultural revivalism and natural synthesis, therefore, with the development of the new or indigenous Afrocentric scenic morgue through filial duty and by applying other artistic methods, gave credence to this auspicious or open-ended experiment titled The Experimental Encounter of Indigenous Scenic Morgue Using Cultural Revivalism and Natural Synthesis for Scenic Arts in a University-Based Theater, which is the topic for this presentation. This study explores the experimental encounter of indigenous scenic morgue using cultural revivalism and natural synthesis for scenic arts. African scenic designers create decolonized folkloric icons by experimenting with indigenous motifs and other art forms. The research investigates Nigerian art, especially the art cultures, adopting Afrocentric styles and harnessing indigenous motifs in scenic paintings. Cultural revivalism, which is the rediscovery and interpretation of indigenous cultural practices and motifs, were also under study. Natural synthesis, which is the blending of the traditional and modern elements to create new artistic expression, was also the basis for this research. The scenic morgue. This is the comprehensive aggregation of pictorial and visual documentation of cultural symbols, Afrocentric metaphors and idioms stored together either in a hard copy or soft copy for visual references during various scenic designs. Art historical methods and approaches, including the Freudian psychoanalytic study of the subconscious artistic mind, Panofsky's iconography, semiotics, negritude philosophy by Leopold Senghor, the Zarianist natural synthesis, cultural revivalism, and other Pan-Africanism and African art movements were also engaged as methods during this research. The research findings demonstrates the potential of cultural revivalism and natural synthesis in artistic expression, reflecting cultural heritage and the promotion of cultural awareness, especially the rich cultural heritages of Nigeria, which have up to more than 250 ethnic cultural groups. In conclusion, this study has a far-reaching implication for new art products, motifs, and cultural awareness, highlighting the significance of novel Afrocentric findings, which are beneficial, and not only beneficial to students, other researchers, but they are also open for further studies. Thank you.